Our third persuasive theory is one I hope you've heard of before: Cognitive Dissonance Theory. Cognitive dissonance theory, unlike the previous two theories, is a post-decision theory. When we mean it's a post-decision theory, we mean this is a theory that occurs after individuals have already made the behavioral change or accepted an attitudinal position. In this sense, if you've recently purchased something that was really expensive and you didn't quite have enough money in your budget, and so you found yourself going, oh crap, I shouldn't have done that. That's a post-decision theory. You're realizing that you've overblown your budget and you're trying to think about how you might balance your finances. That post-decision theory is one that might be explained by cognitive dissonance theory. Cognitive dissonance theory suggests that persuasion isn't just something that is injected into others by some sort of media information or by some sort of targeted ad campaign. Instead, we make decisions ourselves, and sometimes when we make decisions, we reflect on those decisions in ways that shape or influence future decisions and future behavioral outcomes. And so, in this sense, we think about cognitive dissonance, we're talking a lot about influence and how we might be influenced by the decisions we've made. In this sense, it describes influence as an intrapersonal event or something processed within our own mental psychology. It's an event that asks us to think a little bit about the incongruence, the tension that exists between our attitudes and our behaviors. Perhaps you're somebody who believes you're a very healthy person, but recently you went out and you partied a little bit too hard, and so you wake up in the morning and you're like, man, I gotta hit the gym extra hard to justify what I did last evening. Well, that's experiencing cognitive dissonance, right? That tension of the attitude that you're a healthy person, but the behavior that you weren't needs to be reconciled by some sort of attitudinal change or behavioral influence event. Something like going to the gym, something like a jog might be solutions if you're feeling that cognitive dissonance. When people are feeling cognitive dissonance, they often use a series of schemata or cognitive patterns that allow them to make decisions. Much like heuristics, schemata are cognitive structures that let us link past experiences to new information. And so while heuristics are often general shortcuts that we might all use, something like if it's cheaper we should or shouldn't buy it, similarly, schemata are based on our own personal experiences and the cognitive dissonance or the influence we have from past events, relationships, and associations we might make. When new information contrasts from our previous beliefs, it tends to create dissonance. If I told you a fact right now that wasn't true, you'd be like, I don't know, why are you telling me that? That seems shady. Well, that shady feeling is a feeling of dissonance. When people feel dissonance, it can work persuasively to motivate them to restore a certain sense of balance. Indeed, we often see dieting and weight loss commercials which target people's dissonance and make those individuals feel like they haven't been doing enough, and by purchasing this piece of equipment, this will be the thing that transforms their life, allowing them to restore balance. So if there's dissonance, life out of balance, or a tension at odds between attitudes and beliefs, there's also consonance. And consonance is when we restore that dissonance, perhaps by purchasing some new weight loss equipment. There's also something like irreverence. And irreverence is when things are unrelated to our attitudes and our beliefs. Perhaps my belief about health and my belief about partying are unrelated to one another, and so I don't wake up with any sort of cognitive dissonance. They're presumably irreverent between the two. And of course, we've already described and defined dissonance as that tension that exists or that discomfort that exists when our attitudes don't align with our behaviors or our beliefs. So cognitive dissonance theorists are tasked with figuring out how people reconcile the decisions they've made after they've already made them. And they tend to suggest that people have less dissonance if the issue they've made the decision about is of smaller magnitude. You're probably not going to have a whole lot of dissonance about purchasing a candy bar at a grocery store. However, when it comes to making a financial decision without your family or partner's knowledge, and you've decided to purchase a sports car or some reckless off-road vehicle, perhaps that would upset your family and your spouse. Well, in that instance, you might have a greater magnitude of dissonance. And so when we think about the magnitude of dissonance, we're talking about the importance of an issue and the perceived dissonance ratio that's caused by the decisions that are made. Some things are very easy to rationalize. Other things create a larger distance or make us feel less secure in widening that ratio of dissonance. As we encounter our own dissonance, perhaps you've purchased an item and then find yourself Googling about it to learn more about all the reviews. Well, that's selective exposure. You're trying to find reviews that support your opinion that what you've purchased is a good thing to purchase. Perhaps you've bought a Tesla and now you find yourself on Tesla Facebook groups. Well, that's selective attention. You want to be around individuals who share information about Teslas. Perhaps you're an individual who believes in a very particular type of market economy, and so you read a certain newspaper and you get mad at that newspaper because it doesn't line up with your view of market economy. Well, that's selective interpretation. Perhaps other time you only watch certain news and then quote that news back to your friends because you have selective retention or are more likely to retain the information that supports your pre-existing beliefs. All of these align with cognitive dissonance theorists' perceived predictions about the way that people might make post-decision theories.